Right, so anybody got any questions or anything that's come from this morning? Andrew.
I had a call from a new build developer saying, I don't think we've quite got anything that smells of we for you.
Okay.
Now, I replied to them, okay, I do appreciate that, but you might have plots at the end of your build that stick and you can't shift, or deals that fall through and you need assistance with. Maybe I could help with that. Their response was, well, maybe, but in this current market, we don't think we need you.
Yeah, which is probably true. Sometimes at year end they do need to sell some. So it'd be good to find out when their year end is. And if you find out when their year end is, you go and see them 6 weeks before their year end and diarise that. But the best twist to put on it is, do you take part exchanges? Okay. Or would you prefer the part exchange to be sold direct to me? In which case you can actually back-to-back it, because one of the exceptions in the Mortgage Lender's Handbook to the 6-month rule, in the Mortgage Lender's Handbook, Councils and Mortgage Lenders, it's the rule book for mortgage lending. In the book it says that if the seller's not owned the property for more than 6 months, or if they've owned it for less than 6 months, it should be reported to the buyer's solicitor, and the buyer's solicitor needs to report it to the lender. Okay. One of the exemptions is builders' part exchanges. Okay, then the 6-month rule doesn't apply to that. Okay. Do we know what the 6-month rule is? Potentially remortgaging, but there are at the moment, as far as I know, no buy-to-let lenders that will lend on a property that you're buying that the previous owner has not owned for more than 6 months. The key to that one is builders' part exchange. A lot of builders will take properties in part exchange, and in the car industry what used to happen, if a BMW dealer had someone come in with a Mercedes for a part exchange, they'd actually ring BMW and say, will you buy this property, this car? And they'll give the description and they'll make a price offer. Okay, and that stands. But it's based on the description being correct. But they actually, if somebody didn't actually then pay that money that they said, if the car was as described, then they kind of fall out of favour with the car for eternity. So it's very much done on a phone call and by a thing of trust. But they actually offer that amount so that they can then fix the deal and know where they stand. So that would allow the builders to know they may have to subsidise the buyers by a certain amount. Okay. Sometimes they overpay for the property instead of giving a cashback, which is kind of a roundabout way of giving them a cashback, but that's compliant with mortgage lending. You know, because they can pay 10 grand or 20 grand more than the property. Okay. Any other queries as a result of any phone calls anyone's had?
I was given a telephone call from an estate agent, and they were just asking for my details and asking me how I'd fund the purchase, and I said cash buyer. I wasn't 100% sure on...
And are you?
Well, I wouldn't have to raise a mortgage, but obviously buying it...
so let's run it again. You asked me the questions. Thank you. Ask me the questions the estate agent phone asked you.
It's just the name and the details, and then...
My name's Glenn Armstrong, yep.
Yeah, and...
details are blah, blah, blah.
And, you know, how are you going to fund the purchase?
We can do it in several ways. We can perhaps take a mortgage through yourselves. or I have a facility with Shawbrook. Occasionally I can buy cash, it just depends. What have you got available, anything suitable?
Again, it was nothing at the moment, but we'll be in contact.
So if you say you're a cash buyer, they'll expect you to be a cash buyer. Did they ask you what price bracket you're buying in?
No.
Okay, they normally ask what price bracket you're looking to buy in, and we just normally say between about 80 and 250. We don't say up to 180 because we still want to capture the houses that are on the market at 220 that we might want to offer 180 on. What I'll do before break is go through something that is fairly important, and that is due diligence. The due diligence you need to do in between when the vendor phones you and you go around and see it, because you need to know how much the property's worth, don't you? Or if you're going out to view a property with the estate agents, gives you a good idea. Quite often when the estate agent is overpricing a property, which they do quite regularly, offer me a property that's about 20 grand overpriced. Yeah, just say I've got a property that's worth about 150.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, we've got a 3-bed on the market for about 150. How does that sound?
Now I know that that property is about 20 grand overpriced, okay? Because it's just told me it needs loads of work as well, but I know it's about 20 grand overpriced. Okay, and I know that. Okay, so Justin, what we normally do is I normally get a valuation done for the mortgage when I buy the property, but I always ask for an opinion of the surveyor. I provide them with a schedule of works, the list of stuff we're going to do to the property, and I ask them to value it afterwards to tell me what they think it'll be worth when I'm done. Okay. Now, it's far easier if I just provide him with comparables. So if you could provide me with comparables to back up that 150 price, then that would be great. Could you do that, please?
Yeah, of course we can.
And now he's stuffed. Okay. Well, I don't want to call him an idiot. I just want to let him out gently. So I don't want to kind of diss him about it. But if he can't come up with comparables, he'll be ringing me up saying, Glenn, when can we have the survey done?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, what was that?
Just ask me when we're going to have the survey done.
When are you having the survey done?
Just imagine there's an offer going through on the property, and I know that he's now overpriced for what he's telling me. Okay.
So when are you going to have the survey done?
Just as soon as I get the comparables to back up the survey that I asked you for the other day.
Ah, right.
Unless there's an issue, in which case we may have to reconsider our offer.
Okay. How long do you think the property will be on the market for?
You're the estate agent.
How long would you want it on the market for?
Sorry, I'm not understanding you, Mr. Estate Agent.
Well, if I left it on the market for 6 months, I'm sure we could get 150.
Nice answer. Okay, so we've got a bit of an issue because they've accepted our offer based on you being able to provide comparables for 150.
Okay.
How can we get you out of this one without causing you an issue with your...
How can I dig myself out of a hole? I mean, well, maybe if I said 130 would be very realistic.
Okay, do you think the vendors would accept 20,000 less for their property?
Well, that'll be up to me. All I could do is ask.
So we've based our numbers based on that. On the figure of 150 that you told us.
Might be in trouble here.
Yeah, so I can kind of turn it on them without actually turning it on them. Yeah, I put the onus on them to provide me with comparables. So if they've over-egged it, they're in a bit of a challenge, aren't they? So we kind of snooker them. It's what's called in chess a skewer. You put them in check, and when they get moved to get out of it, you take their queen, or you take a piece. That's my favourite move in chess. It's heads we win, tails we don't lose. Any other questions before we crack on? Okay. Right, so the next session is, let's do repossessions. Let's keep it gentle for a few minutes, and then we'll go into the no money down financing side of things. Are we all sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. So repossession. So every now and again you'll get a phone call from someone because your marketing is geared towards people who are being repossessed. What's the minimum amount of time you need to be able to stop a repossession? I've had it where people have rung me up at 9 o'clock in the morning and they're being repossessed at 11 or 11:30, and we've managed to stop it. What we need to remember is that the court opens at 10 and the repossessions start at 11. Okay, and they'll either be 11, 11:30, 12, 12:30. They're not normally after that because they need to be done in the morning to give people a chance to find somewhere to stay. So let's look at someone who's getting repossessed. What is their real life situation? So let's imagine, Sophie, you are being repossessed on Monday morning at 11:30. Okay, so you are being repossessed at 11:30 on Monday morning. Is your family home? Okay.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Desperate.
Okay, we need to get inside the head of the person who's there. And we need to act very sensitively and very ethically. Okay? So I'll always try and help the vendor get out of their situation. And if I can help them without me buying it, then that's fine. We've got a lot of experience on dealing with them, and if any of you come across a situation and you're on a mentoring program and you just need help, all you need to do is just get hold of one of these and they'll text me and I'll drop whatever it is we're doing and I'll help you through it if it's that day in a very short period of time. Okay? So, Sophie, you have been to the Citizens' Advice, and the Citizens' Advice, do you know what they would say to you? You're not actually homeless until you're homeless. Okay? Come and see us at 11 o'clock or after 11 o'clock on Monday morning. Okay? So you go to shelter. And what does shelter say? You're not homeless. Come and see us after 11 on Monday morning. Now how are you feeling?
Totally desperate.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so ask me what I'll do or what we can do as shelter or the Citizens Advice Bureau when you come to us at 11 o'clock or just after you've been repossessed. So ask me the question.
I'm getting repossessed.
Yeah.
I'm losing my house at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
They're probably at the door at the moment.
No. Ask, this is now.
Yeah.
And Monday morning is when you're being repossessed. So,
Okay.
But imagine that this shelter's open.
Okay. So I'm getting repossessed on Monday morning.
Okay.
So I
Well,
need.
I've already said there's nothing we can actually do until that time. Your question actually
What
is...
can I do then?
What can you do? Well, there's nothing you can do till you are repossessed. Once you are repossessed, you come and see us and we'll find some emergency accommodation for you because you've got children. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you didn't have children, no, not necessarily. We might try, but it's not an essential. Okay? Come and see us and we'll find some temporary accommodation. If there's nothing available, we'll put you into a hostel, which potentially might be in Northampton, which is 30 miles away.
Why do they do that?
Because that's what they do. It's not why, that's the process. Okay? So how's someone who's been repossessed feeling? So come into my letting agency and try and rent a house from me.
I'm getting repossessed on Monday morning.
Okay?
Do you have any accommodation that I can move into
Unfortunately,
really quick?
if you're being repossessed, your credit won't be very good because if you'd have defaulted on your mortgage. So I'm afraid we can't help you. Now how are you feeling?
That's it. You've hit the wall.
So this is what we're dealing with, yeah? People in this circumstance. So one of our marketing messages is rent a property from us. And we used to be able to say rent a property for us and sell your property to us and we'll rent it back to you. Yeah? Now we advertise sell your property to us or sell your home to us and we'll rent you back another one. So there's that advert. Just imagine you've seen the advert. We will buy your house and we'll rent you back another one. Just call me on that.
I've seen your ad, sell your house to us and you'll rent us another one.
Okay.
So I'm getting repossessed on Monday morning.
Okay. Can I just ask you a couple of questions? First of all, I'll come around and see you. And then I'd like to ask you a couple of questions because they may well be able to stop the repossession for you. How would that be?
That'd be brilliant.
Okay. So I'll go around to see her. Okay. And it may be Saturday afternoon, it might be Sunday because you're being repossessed on Monday, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Sophie, I do appreciate what you're going through because I've dealt with quite a lot of situations like you. Can I just ask you some questions?
Sure.
Okay. And I'm going to go through things like the value of the property, etc., etc., etc. But when you were given the repossession notice, did you ever go to court to defend it, or did you just sort of ignore it? And
Ignored it.
So ignored it. Okay. What we can do, we can go to court on Monday. The court opens at 10. We can download a form off of the internet from the council called an N244. The N244 is a document that basically asks the judge for a stay of execution for the warrant of eviction. Now that's big words, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you've got a repossession going on, but it's like we can request a stay of execution for the for the warrant of eviction, which is exactly what we're doing. Okay, we can go along, and because you've never been in the situation where you've tried to negotiate with the judge or the building society to repay the mortgage, to actually start repaying it again and just pay a little bit off the arrears. Now, are you in a situation where you could start paying the mortgage, or you said your husband was unemployed suddenly?
Yeah.
Is it a case that you can't actually afford the mortgage?
Can't afford the mortgage, no.
Okay. Now, we can do one or two things. We can go back and, to give you more time to find somewhere, and we can help you find somewhere. We can go to court and pretend we're buying the house. Okay. And the judge will give you more time to allow the sale to go through.
Yeah.
Or, if the numbers work, we could actually buy the house. And we can actually rent you a different one. But is there any potential of your husband getting any work in the near future?
Yeah. He could get work in the near future.
Okay, and do you know when he may well have a job, when he potentially could get work?
In the summer, when the weather
Okay.
gets better. Yeah.
Okay, so about 2 months' time.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I suggest you do, will you be able to afford your mortgage then?
Yeah.
Okay. So look, if what you could do is try and buy some time by saying that you're going to start paying some arrears off the loan. As soon as you don't pay, then the warrant will be reinstated.
Okay.
Okay. Then, if we wait for there'll be a delay while they then get a new repossession date. And what the process is, the first time you ever sit in front of a judge, they'll always give you more time to either come up with a payment agreement, which you'll agree there and then with the judge, and the representative from the building society will be there. Okay. They'll always give you time to come, or they'll always come to an agreement with you. Okay. If it's the second time because you haven't paid, the judge will normally give you a second chance. So in this case, if your husband's then working by the time you get the second chance, you can go back and say he's now working. If you go back a third time, it's only normally a change in circumstances that the judge will make an allowance. He will let the repossession go ahead unless you can prove a change in circumstances. And a change in circumstances might be that your husband's now got a job.
Okay.
So as a judge, I'd sit here and go, well, actually, that means that they've had a change of his circumstance, so therefore they may well be able to pay now. Whereas if you didn't have a change in circumstance, I'd be sitting, well, you've had 2 chances. What difference is a third chance going to make? So that's important to understand. It's that third, if you're there for the third time, there's got to be a change in circumstance.
Right.
There's also a very, very nice little way of getting out of it. Okay? And I know repossession isn't an amusing thing, but there is a funny side to this. So there I was in court with someone like Sophie. We're sitting in front of the judge, and Ken, you've worked for a council authority, so you actually been employed by the Building Society. Sorry, there's nothing to answer. By the Building Society.
Okay.
Now what actually happens is the Building Society will go to a local solicitor. So there's one set of solicitors in Milton Keynes that all the building societies go to, and they employ people who understand the repossession process but aren't necessarily qualified lawyers, okay, to represent the building society in court. So for the purpose of this role play, you are that person, okay? And Tony, you can be the judge. This could be an agent. Yeah, take the call. Yeah, go on then, take the call. Stay there.
Tony Shayla. Oh, hiya. Okay, lovely. Okay, brilliant. Okay. Why do you think I will be interested in them then? In as much as the... Yeah. Okay. It doesn't have to be in a dire state, as long as it's sort of bereavement or can move really quickly and buy it below market value. Make about 20,000, that's what I'm looking for. Okay.
Just make an appointment to go in and see them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any chance of Monday to go and have a look? Okay. In the afternoon would be perfect for me. About 4 o'clock.
Meet at the office, not at the property.
Okay. Yeah, that suits me. Yeah, it'd be easy if I could come to the office. Is that okay? First. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah, please. Ideally, if I could jump in with you, if that's okay. Yeah, can I take your name, sorry? And Louise. All right, thanks, Louise. Thank you. Bye. Yeah, she said she didn't know whether it would be what I'm really looking for.
It's not about that. It's all about building a relationship up. And it's unusual that a lady estate agent is taking somebody they don't know out in a car with them. However, it might be that it's not her you go out with.
Right. Okay.
Because they've got to be very careful about that sort of thing.
I bet. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Let's go back to where we were. So we've gone to court. I'm with Sophie. She's asked if I go with her. The court is normally just a small office. It's not a place where there's like what's that called? Lectern dock. You're not standing in the dock, you're actually just sitting on a chair. Normally, like, you're sitting there, the person from the Building Society is sitting by your side, and the judge is sitting opposite, making notes, okay? So yeah, just the chambers. Right, Tony, you're the judge. You've just asked Ken from the Building Society, representing the Building Society, what the outstanding balance of the loan is and what the arrears are, and he's told you, because they'll always know them numbers. And you normally call a judge sir. So could I ask you, sir, what the actual redemption figure is? because we need to work that out so I can work out my offer. I'm actually looking at buying the property from Sophie, but we need to work out a price, and we can't do that until we have a redemption figure. So would you like to ask? Normally the judge would then say, can we have the redemption figure, please?
Okay. Okay, have you got the redemption figure, please?
Well, yes, we have.
No, you don't. No, sorry, we don't have the redemption figure. Now I'm going to take over from the judge. What do you mean you haven't got the redemption figure? Are you wasting our time?
Not really.
And this is just a person representing the Building Society. When can you get it for me? Shall we adjourn for 10 minutes? Will you get it?
Yes, I think I'll be able to get it for you.
Okay, then we'll adjourn for 10 minutes. Be sure you get it for us.
All right, no problems. I'll make sure I get that figure for you.
He's like... Because he's only just a normal person off the street representing the Building Society. Okay? How has anyone ever tried to get a redemption figure off a Building Society?
Yes, it takes ages.
It
days,
does.
Weeks, sometimes.
Sometimes it's weeks,
ridiculous.
yeah. It's a great way of asking, because they can't force the repossession if you don't know that number. Okay? Okay, so you go out, you ring the Building Society, nothing happens, they don't know. Okay, Ken, so you now have the redemption figure for us.
No.
What do you mean, no?
Well,
You're wasting court's time.
The time is similar.
Right, well, I'm sorry. Sophie, of course you can have an extension. No problem whatsoever. I think you should get your act together.
Okay. Do better next time.
And that's how it works.
How long is the extension typically?
2 weeks, 3 weeks before we even go back to court to work out an agreement. Because
they've got an extension, they've got that redemption figure, and it's the
they haven't. They will not have that redemption figure. I've done hundreds of these and they never have it.
Excuse me, can you explain exactly what is redemption?
Yeah, when you sell your house, yeah, the Building Society will always give your solicitor the redemption figure. It's different from the outstanding balance. Because your redemption figure may include an early redemption penalty. Nearly always includes a few £100 of admin fees and that type of stuff. But it's always different from the outstanding balance. Okay? So, anyway, and this...
Should you always ask that question?
Or as someone who goes, if you're representing, going to court with someone, will always ask that question because it will give us more time. Okay? So, this is something that actually happened to me. And a few days later, I was in court with somebody else. I'm in court with Richard. And before you go in, normally the person acting from the Building Society will come and have a little word. And normally they're quite arrogant, quite nasty. Do you know, I'm not going to put up with anything that you know, you're saying that you want time. I'm not going to allow that to happen. You know, all I want to know is when we're getting our arrears. And they're quite aggressive, most of them. Okay? Now, on this particular occasion, it was about 3 or 4 days after the last occasion, where I'd gone in with the lady and the redemption figure thing. And it was the same person from the Building Society. And before we went into court, he's on the phone. And I know exactly what he's doing. Okay? We've gone back into court, we've sat down. The judge has said to Ken, what are the numbers? And no, don't ask for redemption, just what are the numbers? And Ken actually turned around and said, well, I'm ever so sorry, Judge, we haven't actually got a redemption figure. So we're quite happy to wait for sort of 3 or 4 weeks while we get that. So the judge turned around and said, okay, fine, no problem. They do not know the redemption figure. So anyway, the solicitor's firm, acting on behalf of the Building Society, rung me and asked if I'd like to work for them. So I said, yes, I would. I'd love to come and work for you. So it got to the point where I was in court so many times with vendors or actually acting for the Building Society, where when I walked into the courthouse, the judges would say to me, good morning, Mr. Armstrong. Are you here today with the vendor, or are you acting for the Building Society, or are you acting as a Mackenzie friend? Now, Mackenzie friend is someone that can whisper to the person, but cannot speak on their behalf. Otherwise, you get told off as talking. Maybe you can whisper, but have you been there? So, did you try saying anything? Because you can't help yourself, can you?
It's very difficult.
And when you do, the judge goes, sorry, you're not allowed to say anything, but you're allowed to whisper in their ear or write things for them to advise them what to say. So, most of the time, we'll always be able to get more time. Okay, we'll always be able to buy more time for the vendor. Okay. We may have to, the only time we're going to struggle is if they've been in court 3 or 4 times. The worst ones are the ones that tell you it's their first time in court, but actually it's their 3rd or 4th, because you go in unprepared with the thing you think is going to work, and then they throw a curveball at you because you didn't have the full information. I think it's important. If I actually said to Sophie, look, the numbers aren't going to work for me to be able to buy your property, but I'm more than happy to help you get something like about an 8-week extension to give you a bit of time to try and find somewhere. Would that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on another particular occasion, it was a property in Bletchley. The gentleman, the father of the son who owned the house, rung me. The father actually lived in the house with them, with his wife, and the son lived in that house with his girlfriend. The son had bought the house off the father and his mum, and got to a position where the mortgage went up, was just about to go up, from £800 a month in its, you know, like a lot of mortgages have a discounted period, and it was going to go up to £1,200 a month, and they couldn't afford it. So they'd asked me out regarding buying the property from them and renting it back to them, which we could do at the time. It was a great deal. There was a nice amount of margin in it. We'd agreed a great price. It was a nice house in an area where we like to own houses. And basically the son couldn't afford. I said to him, why don't you, you know, just refinance with somebody else? And he said, well, because my wife's got a CCJ, or my girlfriend's got CCJ, we can't do that. We can only get subprime mortgages, and they're all about £1,200. Anyway, we got to a point where we were very close to exchanging, and I'd gone back round there for some reason. And the son actually said something. He said, yeah, do you know what? My girlfriend's got, it's when he said my girlfriend's got a CCJ, and it's for a mobile phone that she gave back, but they still charged her for it. She wasn't supposed to give it back, and it's a principal thing. I wish we'd actually sorted it at the time. And I said to him, look, why don't you just go and apply for a mortgage in your own name and leave her off the application? Which I got daggers from her. Okay, and I said, no, look, you can put a deed of trust on the property so you still retain whatever agreement you've come to. That way, you may well be able to get a mortgage that you're looking for. So I put them in touch with our mortgage broker, and he got them a mortgage at £700 a month. So I lost out. I lost out on what was a really good deal. But I think it's really really important that we do the right thing, okay, when we're in this sort of situation. Now, who here believes in karma? I had a phone call about 4 or 5 weeks later from the dad, and he said, Glenn, could you bring some leaflets round? Some of your leaflets round for me? I said, yeah, of course. Turns out he's the chairman, was the chairman of the local working men's club, and he put my leaflet up, and he wrote a hand-printed note to say that I've used these are really, really good, stopped our situation, told us what to do, highly recommend them. And I ended up buying about 8 or 9 houses from that. So, but it is important to do the right thing in these cases, because the people are in a very, very vulnerable situation.
The situation you mentioned before, when you said it's not viable to buy your property, but we can help you with an extension, you'd help that person for nothing.
Yes, yeah. You want to hear a funny story about what happened in one of the situations? I got this very irate phone call from this coloured fella. Are you taking the mickey, blah, 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 blah. Why didn't you send this earlier? What had happened is he was being escorted out of his house by the bailiffs. Our leaflet deliverer just so happened to be in the road and handed him a leaflet as he was being repossessed. And he actually thought it was part of the process. Okay, so he looked at my leaflet saying cash paid for property, if you're being repossessed, give us a shout, we might be able to help you. And it's like, why the hell didn't you give this to me a couple of weeks ago? And I said, look, I'm ever so sorry, but our leaflet delivers just delivering them in your area, it's just random. But however, I'm more than happy to try and help you. It was on a Friday. Tell me about what's happened. And he told me, and I said, look, if you want, we can put you up in one of our houses that are empty at the moment for a few days, so you've got somewhere to go. And he actually turned out he actually stayed in a hotel for the weekend. But he came to see me, and what had actually happened, I decided to help him try and get his house back. Now, it's very seldom can you actually get a repossession that's gone ahead overturned. But I've got a book called How to Defend Repossession Proceedings, okay, which is great bedtime reading if you want to go to sleep. Okay? But sometimes there's examples in there. And there is a technicality that you can do this on called oppressive repossession. So we put in the form, can't remember what the form number is, to ask if we could go and see the judge about getting the repossession overturned because we thought the repossession was oppressive. So we went in and we sat in front of the judge, and the judge turned around and said, look, Mr. Armstrong, I do not know of any repossession that isn't oppressive. What is the difference with this particular one? So I said, well, sir, it's like this. Mr. So-and-so's wife went in to the Building Society at 9 o'clock that morning with the £7,000 in cash to pay the arrears off in full, and the Building Society refused to accept it because her name was not on the mortgage. And that's a true story, okay? The Building Society would not accept it because her name was, he'd gone to work as normal in London and wasn't near enough to the money to get it and go and pay for it. And she couldn't get down to him, so he couldn't do it. They didn't have any more money that he could go and pay it down that end. So the repossession went ahead at 11 o'clock. So the judge set another hearing when the representative from the Building Society could be there. And we sat down, and the judge turned round and basically said, why did you not let his wife pay? And they turned around and tried to say data protection. And the judge went, what a load of bollocks. He said, that's the biggest load I've ever heard. You make sure they get their keys back. And actually forced them to give the keys back, which the Building Society wasn't very happy because they sent him a bill for cutting off all the services, which they'd done after they repossessed. So we went back to court again, and guess what? Not only did we get that overturned, but we also gave them a bill for having all the services put back on, which the judge made them pay. Okay. Now, has anyone ever seen Police Academy? Yeah. You know Hightail sitting in the back of the car like that? Well, this bloke must have been 7 foot tall. It's like big, like it's huge. You say my people carrier, and made him look like it was a tiny little car. It was like, and he said to me, he said, Glenn, if ever you have any problems with any of your tenants, just let me know. So now, there was another occasion when I went to court, and the judge actually, and I thought we were going to be sticky because there was about 3 times they'd been repossessed. And I read this book about defending repossessions, and got into court, and the judge says, well, I'm sorry, I'm just going to let this repossession go ahead because of whatever, you know, because they've not made any payments over the last 2 times, so why would this be different? And I actually said, yes, sir, there is grounds that you can do this if you check out Smith versus Nationwide, blah, 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 blah. It's, you know, something when there's a precedent being set. So the judge went, okay, just a minute, went up to his bookcase, pulled out, blew the dust off the law book, went and said, yeah, yes, Mr. Armstrong, you've got a point, and he gave us 4 weeks. That's just about understanding the rules. So our leaflets, so part of the leaflet actually says, sell us your property and we'll rent you another one. Now, if you haven't got, like we're fine, we've got plenty of properties that we can rent to people. Okay. But not everyone's in that situation. So what you need to do is go along to the local network events and speak to some of the other landlords and actually turn around and say, look, if you've got a property empty that I can rent, that these people can rent, I'd be happy to guarantee them for 6 months, and you just build that into your deal, you know, as though they don't pay. You build it in as part of what you pay for their property, and then act as guarantor for them for a 6-month period, okay, so that they can rent a property from somewhere, okay. But that advert with that wording is quite powerful. Any questions?
Yeah, just asking, Glenn, is there a difference between subprime mortgages and self-certified mortgages?
First of all, there's no such thing as self-cert mortgages anymore.
I know, yeah, sure.
Their nickname was lie mortgages. Second of all, there's no subprime lending anymore because they don't lend to people with not such a good record because of all this whole situation. The whole of the mortgage collapse last time, the property collapse, was based around subprime mortgages. It was basically, in America, there was hundreds and hundreds of very bad people that they'd just basically give mortgages to anybody. That's what they were doing. They was doing what they call mortgage wraps. They was putting 300,000 mortgages together and selling them all around the world as prime investments. And Iceland Bank bought loads of them, didn't they? And got into deep trouble, yeah? A lot of institutions bought them. And it was actually a lot to do with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's company actually endorsed these products. And he was actually one of the people behind the whole thing, what was going on. And they were providing mortgages to people that they pretty much knew wouldn't pay because they didn't care. They just wrapped them up into one big package and sold them all around the world for a ridiculous amount of profit because, you know, the loan to values were very high, or sorry, the interest rates were very high. And that's what brought the world collapse. So any other questions? Okay, right. Who's ever bought a property without doing any due diligence? Who's ever bought a property without looking at it? Yeah, it's a bit of hassle going to check it out, isn't it? Did it work out all right for you? It's typically the answer. What amount of due diligence do you think is necessary when you're buying a property. Because what happens when people come to the partnership program and they say, Glenn, we've got this property, when it's done up it will be worth this, we can buy it for this and the refurb is that. Okay? That's typically the 3 numbers I need. So the due diligence for me is to check that when it is done up it will sell for, let's say it's 140 grand, it will sell for 140. So, how can we check that a property will sell for 140 just because the estate agent has told us? There's basically, I want to underline this and make sure it's dead right. So I'm not just going to accept one opinion. Has anybody used HomeTrack? Okay. It is the professional's choice of valuation tool. Okay. If you do not use HomeTrack, you are not in this business. We're going to offer everybody HomeTrack trial for a month for £1. Okay. You just cannot do business without it. It'd be like a carpenter using a kid's toy tool set, trying to be in this business without HomeTrack. HomeTrack gives you lots of information that you can't get elsewhere. HomeTrack will cost you £40 a month plus VAT. You can go direct to HomeTrack and they'll just charge you 20 quid every time you use it. You can subscribe through our package at £40 a month and it will allow you to do unlimited ART checks and 5 real-time valuations per month. How do you use it? Well, if you go on to the Glenn Armstrong website and go to the blog pages and dig right down to near the bottom of the blogs, we did a 1-hour webinar with somebody called Ben, I can't remember his surname, Ben Squire. I did a 1-hour webinar with him. He was from HomeTrack and he describes how to use it properly. Okay, so it's an instructional how to use HomeTrack properly. HomeTrack will give you some great information, like the square footage of a property. Square footage of properties for comparables is essential. Imagine we're looking at a 2-bed bungalow and we're comparing it with another 2-bed bungalow. But actually, if you really knew about it in more depth, the 2-bed bungalow you're buying is 700 square foot and the 2-bed bungalow you're comparing it with is like 2,000 square foot.
Hello, Ian speaking. Oh, hello. Hi there. Great. Wonderful. Lawson, Lawson. Let me know what you've got. There's no limit. I'm buying a £1 million property in Eastbourne at the moment. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, anything with rooms. Yeah, I mean the rooms market is quite buoyant, and any house that you might have that's got 5 rooms or above, 10 plus even better. Anything that might be, it might be in commercial use right now, or it might be in residential use, and I might be able to get change of use, or at least get it converted to be able to let out as rooms. So it might be that way right now, or it might just be a large house in single occupation that I can convert to let as rooms. And anything that you've got that is a fairly sizable space, I will look at. Oh, that's brilliant. That sounds like a good match. Okay. Sure, yeah. How about Monday? Okay, well look, can I come along to your office beforehand and then we can drive down together? That will be really great, and I can bring along my passport and show you bank statements and facility letters. Yeah, great stuff, that's brilliant, because sometimes I use cash and sometimes I use commercial finance, so that'd be really brilliant. Very much the same here. Thanks, Rhiannon. Thanks, bye now.
Bingo.
Many rooms?
5, but relationship.
Yeah, cool. Right, so where was we? Home track?
May I say something about Ian's telephone style?
Yes.
He's so patient.
Listens to their full sentence.
Listens to everything that she has to say without interrupting anything.
Do you know anyone who doesn't do that?
Brilliant, excellent.
Do you know anyone who doesn't do that?
Why don't I do that?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you had a little glimmer in your eye.
Well, no, normally the person that recognises that type of thing is normally because there's a good reason.
No, you've embarrassed me.
You're
I
blushing.
don't think I interrupt. Do I interrupt when I'm talking to you?
No, I haven't had experience with you on the phone.
What you've done to me, you terrible man.
It's worthwhile thinking about it though, because if you thought how patient Ian was because you were sitting there probably thinking, why don't you just say that?
No.
But yeah, it's worth thinking about it next time you're on the phone, because it's very much a thing about you've got how many of these and you've got how many of these. You use them in that proportion. Now we've been out on a very interesting God, what was it called? The place Black Dawn. 2.5 million. 2.5 million. Amazing property. We were doing the mini mansion process on it. Came very, very, very close to doing the deal. It was very hard for us to say to these people that the house that they'd built only about 10 or 12 years before, which was lovely, timber framed, we would actually be knocking down and building like a 14,000 square foot mini mansion on their plot. But it was very, very much a thing of going and listening, and I said to Ian, please, whatever you think at the time, I may be heading in a certain direction, please just don't even try and chip in with anything, even if you think it might be worthwhile, because I may be taking them down a certain direction. And we listened for hours, didn't we? And he went on and on and on and on and on and on. And at the end he said, yes, I'll be quite happy to do something along these lines. And I said to him, because I saw his wife sitting in a corner, I said, and what does your wife think? Because I'd much rather go away with both of you being happy about it. Because I said, I think you may have a couple of issues about what we're doing. And she went, yes, I do. And then we could find out what they were, because they would have reared their head the minute we left. She'd be going, no, 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 no. We needed to get them both on side. But it's very important to watch both sets of body language as well.
And it exactly was 3 visits. 4, including my first one without you. And they were ready to do the deal. And as luck would have it or not have it, it's a volume game. An offer, a cash offer, came in literally days before we were about to sign the paperwork. We were going to solicitors. We had a solicitors meeting booked to do the paperwork.
And all we were doing is taking an option on their deal and taking over his mortgage payments while we got planning permission to build a bigger property on that site. And it already had planning permission to extend it to double its size, so we didn't seem to have a problem doing it. And then market it off plan for somewhere around about 4.5, 5 million,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
with a 1.5 million build cost. There was a £2 million profit in it. And we were literally about 2 days off doing the deal. Right, so due diligence. It's really, really important that you look at the home track. Now, home track will give you square footage comparisons, and they will also give you the number of bedrooms. A lot of the other websites don't give the number of bedrooms, so you might be comparing a 2-bed with a 3-bed. When you're looking and doing your due diligence, go and visit the property and go and visit the properties that you are using as comparisons. Because there's one particular area in Milton Keynes that's called Bean Hill, where there are 3 bedrooms bungalows on one side of the estate that are about 110 grand in value, and there are 3-bedroom bungalows on the other side of the estate that are about 170 grand in value, because the 170 grand ones are brick built with proper roofs, and the other ones are timber framed, metal clad, flat roofed properties. Okay? And if you did not go and visit them, you would not notice, because you'd be comparing a 3-bed bungalow with a 3-bed bungalow. Okay? Which isn't good, is it? Okay? So make sure, golden rule, go and visit the properties that you are using for comparisons. There's quite a bit of other information on Rightmove, like the average time it takes to sell a property in a postcode. It's essential if we're thinking of flipping. So what we're doing is we're giving you a sheet where you just fill it in, and you can subscribe. So £1 for the first month, then it's £40 a month afterwards. Okay? You cannot be in this business without using home track. Now, home track, you can do a valuation, you can look at all the comparables in the area. So when you look at the comparables, it will give you a good feel of whether or not the property will be worth 140. You'll need to see some, and it is also good, home track's good, that if you want to use the comparables because you're going to visit the vendor, you can select the lower price selling ones and deselect the higher price selling ones. So you can say, look, this, and this sold for that. If you're going to meet the surveyor, you can deselect the low figure ones and select the high figure ones, and you can go, look, these have been valued at this. And sometimes the surveyor will take home track valuations as okay, and won't bother to do any more than take the piece you've given him.
What about some Rightmove? Is that?
It's not. Home track is not on Rightmove.
No, I thought you said there's an interesting Rightmove that tells you the time to sale.
No, on home track.
Right.
On home track, which is £40 a month, which gives you all this information. I'm going to know who's really serious about this business, because you're going to fill in the forms and put £1 on your credit card. And I know the ones of you that don't do that aren't really serious or aren't quite ready. I know you're not ready for a few months. Although you did send an email out to all this estate agent. Oh, you didn't send it? Okay. We'll let you off then. The next thing I do is I will call 2 other agents for their opinion on what that property is worth in that road. Now, you can't very well ring another estate agent and go, and thinking of buying this property, could you give me tell me whether you think it's worth it or not. What do you think it will sell for? So this is what we do. Is that the estate agent?
Yes, how are you doing?
Okay. I wonder if you can help me. I've got a property in Smith Street. Are you familiar with the area?
Yes, I know that road quite well.
And do you know your values in the area?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I'm considering selling a property down that road. It's a 3-bed property. We've recently refurbished it and it's been tenanted. We're just about to evict the tenant because they're in arrears.
So I can't get in and have a look?
No, we can't. And quite often estate agents say, can I go and have a look? They will not value a property unless they go around to have a look at it, will they? Unless you say this. Okay, so I have a tenant. They're being evicted.
Yeah, it's obviously you can't get in to have a good look at it then.
No, but it's going to be about 4 weeks' time. Okay. I just need a bit of time to decide whether or not I want to continue renting it, or obviously we'll consider you for selling it if you can help us.
Yeah, of course we can. Yeah.
What do you think? We recently did a full refurb on it, so it's typical buy-to-let refurb, new kitchen, new bathroom, beige carpets, magnolia paint.
150?
Whatever you think it is. Okay. Really? Bloody hell, that's far more than what I thought. What about if I want to sell it quick?
In 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah.
130.
Get the right price. Okay, that's the actual price. All right. Really? It's really important to sound enthusiastic. Really?
If I put a gun to your head, then you'd sell in 3 weeks.
That is what some people do say. Yeah. I just go, really? That's amazing. That's far more than what I thought, which relaxes them. What about if I wanted to sell it very quickly? And then they actually give you the right price. So, if the agent is telling me that my property will sell for 140, and Home Track is telling me that there's quite a lot of comparables that are at 140, and I've rung 2 estate agents, okay, rung 2 other agents, and they've both agreed that it's about 140, then I'm starting to feel fairly comfortable. If they're all over the place, I'm not feeling comfortable. But the chances are the Home Track and the 2 agents, when you do this, should be within about 10 grand of each other. Okay? There is one other form of due diligence that I do that I don't think there's any other people that do this except for people on our programme. I like to use reverse psychology. If you're hoping to sell your house all done up for 140, go and pretend you want to buy a house for 140 and see what else you can buy. If there's other properties that are much nicer than yours, which one? You've got to be honest with yourself. The chances are you would buy them at 140 and not your one. So what does that mean? Yours isn't worth 140. On the other hand, the similar properties in the area might all be kind of worth 150, 160. In which case you might be selling it too cheap. But I always do the reverse psychology test and pretend I want to buy one for myself at the money that I'm hoping to sell mine for, and be honest with yourselves, is that property really worth what you're trying to sell it for? I do not like little cottages in villages that have got no comparables. When I toss that coin, I want to be going heads I win, tails I don't lose. I cannot do that with little cottages. Okay? I like to have properties with lots of comparables. So what we need to do is go to the page and put in all your details, and Louise will come around and collect them from you. And then as soon as you've done that, let's grab some coffee. What I want to do now is walk you through the vendor negotiation and the nibbling technique we use when dealing with vendors. So on here we've listed places were sources of deals where we get our deals over the years. And you asked the question earlier on about where do the different places, where the deals come from. Obviously we get a certain amount of deals from estate agents. Going back in 2005, 2006, it was quite difficult to deal with estate agents because the market was good, and we used to get most of our deals from our marketing, our leaflets, our newspaper ads and our other marketing stuff. When we hit 2009, the bottom of the market, basically when we walked into an estate agent, they hadn't seen anyone for 2 weeks. They were shocked that we walked in and that there was actually someone still wanting to buy property. And when we made offers, like ridiculously low offers, they would consider them and sometimes come back 4 weeks later and say that offer of 80 grand that you've made on that 120 grand house, we're actually happy to accept that now. Well, actually, I'm only going to pay you 75. And it was our turn to be arrogant about that, but we weren't, but you get my drift. Because we could dictate it was a buyer's market, not a seller's market. Now it's turned full circle. The deals are going to come more from your marketing and less from estate agents. Okay, estate agents are going to be more difficult to get the deals out with the margins that we need. Getting deals from county courts, how do we do that? Well, Nick, a friend of mine, used to go into the court on Tuesdays because that was the day they had the repossessions, and he would go in and he would ask, okay, go and look at the sheet on the wall which said Nationwide versus Smith. Now, do you think it'd be very easy to track down the address for Smith? No. However, if it was Nationwide versus of Emilo and Sophie with two different surnames, we could go and track them down from the library, from the electoral roll. Okay, so then we could then write to them. Did we ever have any success doing that? No. Okay, I call that ambulance chasing, and we never had a lot of success. We tried handing leaflets out to people coming out of court, but guess what? The people coming out of court that had just been told they were being repossessed weren't very receptive to our leaflets, and swore at the people we used to get to deliver out, give them their leaflets, and they used to give their notice in. Then we tried putting them on the car windscreens around the court building, and we got told by the local council that if any of ours leaflets got thrown onto the floor, we would be fined for litter. Their way of saying, please stop. It wasn't very productive, so we stopped doing it. Magnetic cards on cars work quite well in the right area. You can put a cash paid for property advert on your car. You can drive around London for 2 years and never get a call. You drive up to Liverpool for the day because you've gone to visit relatives, and assuming when you come out the car still has its wheels and you go to drive home, you will probably get a couple of calls from your car being in that area that day. Okay? Because that's how it is. Okay, the low value areas, the slow moving areas will get far more response from marketing. Nick, friend of mine, who just spoke about, bless his little cotton socks, one of our equity millionaires, one of the first ones, used to work with me in our office while he was building his portfolio in Northampton and Hemel. He, say bless his cotton socks, was all excited because his signs arrived at our office one day, and he took the signs out. He said, come on Glenn, let's go and hang them on the car. Went out to his car, went to hang them on, and they fell on the floor. Magnetic signs. It was a smart car, it was plastic. If you have a plastic car, do not get magnetic signs, okay? Just a hint. So, much to his wife's upset, he heraldited them to the car. It's good from a perspective if you go around and see clients. The clients aren't always comfortable with you being there in a cash paid for property car, because their neighbours will wonder what they're up to. Okay, and they don't like to be seen to be selling a house in that way. Later on we'll talk about what type of cars you should be going round in when you actually visit vendors. Websites. We used to run a company called Repossession Angels. We had 40, 50 people every month paying £1,000 each into an advertising kitty. The advertising kitty, we used to spend a lot of money on advertising in the Sun, in the Daily Mirror, and we used to do a lot of pay-per-click advertising. When I say a lot of pay-per-click advertising, we used to spend £20,000 a month on pay-per-click advertising. And whoever's postcode, because everyone bought their postcode every month for their £1,000 fee, and whoever had any of the inquiries that came from their postcodes they'd bought, they would get the inquiries. Okay? So they'd get the inquiries and they'd go and deal with them. Most of the inquiries came from the cheaper areas, so the people who belonged to our Repossession Angels Club did very well when they were in the cheaper areas, and the people in London hardly got any. But we set that up before we understood this. You know, we found out trial and error that what marketing works where. The very surprising thing about the newspaper advertising is that we used to get 80%, if we put the same advert in the Sun Monday to Friday, we would get 80% of the response on the Monday and virtually zero response on a Friday. Why do you think that might be?
People who've been buying papers probably already seen it.
No, it's because people are ostriches. People in trouble are ostriches. So when Monday morning comes and there's a repossession looming, they think they better do something about it. And by the time Friday gets there, who gives the stuff? Let's go out the pub and get drunk. That's how the mentality of these people that we were dealing with work. So we only have it advertised on a Monday or Tuesday. So if you have a choice with your leaflets, I'd deliver them on Mondays and Tuesdays rather at the other end of the week. But if the leaflets are okay, the chances are they'll save them till the Monday or Tuesday and call you. You will get most of your calls on a Monday.
Why is that not running now?
Why is what now running?
The advertising for repossessions.
The Repossession Angels group advertising that we did.
Just like kind of a...
It was a club, yeah, and it stopped when the repossession stopped. When the recession hit, because they didn't want to pay out for marketing because it got so easy to buy properties. And we've never kicked it off. It's not as easy now to get houses cheap because most of the deals we did were sale and rent backs. People were prepared to sell your property cheaper because they could stay there. Okay, now they can't stay there. Okay, they don't particularly want to sell the properties cheaper. They try and get it for they try and sell their properties for the best price they can get. Okay, doesn't mean to say there aren't still deals about. The challenge with the sale and rent back laws are that it's an in principle law, not a set of rules. If they were a set of rules, I could get our barristers to get round them. If in principle you create something called a sale and rent back by buying a house and renting it back to them in whatever guise you do, you're actually in breach of FSA regulations or FCA regulations. You're not allowed to do them. It's an imprisonable offence, doing a sale and rent back. I've never yet heard of anyone going to prison for it. I have heard of somebody getting a £900,000 fine for doing it. Why did they get a £900,000 fine? Because what they were doing is buying a house off Richard as a sale and rent back and selling it to Ian as an investor, saying they've already got tenants moving in for Ian, so it's like a package deal, but not telling Ian it was a sale and rent back. So they were doing it on a commercial basis and got over a 900 grand fine for doing it. We'll talk about them tomorrow, sale and rent backs. We'll go into more details. There are some loopholes that we've discovered. We like to explore and discover anything that we can like that within the rules. So websites, I think, are very useful if you are marketing through newspaper advertising and through leaflets as a backup, so that when they see your advert, they've got a website to go to. And you can have testimonials and that type of thing on the website. I wouldn't recommend you use it as an advertising medium. The single most common denominator of people who failed in the property business were people who had websites and bought properties dotted all around the country and didn't run them properly. There was one particular person who was fairly famous and did a talk at Excel on how he bought over 100 properties in 2 years and then lost them all. Had them all repossessed. Because, if you ask me when the film's not on, I'll tell you. Okay. Although it's not really that much of a secret because he actually stood up in front of several hundred people and spoke about it. The challenge was that he did not see buying a house off somebody and getting 15 grand cash back or 10 grand cash back and collecting the $350 a month for the rent he didn't see collecting 350 for the rent as relevant against the 15 grand cashback he got. Totally mad. Okay, so therefore he didn't chase them when they didn't pay. And our sale and rent back people weren't the best payers in the world, bless their cotton socks. Okay, we used to make sure we get direct payments from housing benefit people. Okay, so the interesting thing is I actually got given the contract by the receivers to dispose of all these properties on their behalf. And I was in his talk, listening to him talk about how he lost his properties. Okay. And I knew him. It was okay when he had 1 or 2 properties and he got his 15 grand in, but 20 properties seemed to be the point where people started getting stuck. Because it's very hard to run a portfolio dotted all around the country. You put the rents in charge of with rental agents. 2 to 3 out of every 4 rental agents are rubbish. Okay, so you're having to go through the pain of dealing with rental agents that are rubbish, and if you built your portfolio too quickly, you can end up with too many rental agents that are rubbish and a big headache in dealing with them. And all you were interested in is buying more properties and buying more properties, and they didn't spend enough time looking after what they'd got. Okay, so time after time, people with between 20 and 30 properties were going bust because they'd bought in what I call a scattergun approach all over the country and didn't allow enough time for them to bed in and start making payments properly and having the letting agents pay before they moved on to their next deals. I was always doing portfolio reviews for people that were in big trouble because their portfolios were not performing because they weren't bothering to collect the rent properly. So, and that's a danger of advertising via a website, that you get leads from all over the country. So you can do Google local advertising, but they keep changing all that. So the best 2 forms of advertising are leaflets and newspapers. But if you're in places like Brighton and North London and that sort of thing, Nick spent over 20 grand leafleting North London and didn't do 1 deal. Because psychologically, the leaflets that arrive, cash paid for properties, the people in the dearer areas aren't interested because they know that they're just going to get a low offer. And it's not hard to sell houses in that area. If you're in an area like Liverpool where it's hard to sell your house, people will ring it's much more likely to get deals. Okay, so the better the area, the less likely leafleting marketing is likely to be, which is why we gave you the formula of where it works and where it doesn't. Okay, which is that over 160 grand, 800 properties in that area. Billboards, anyone seen the house down the road with the soap advert on the side of it? Okay, if you had a property similar to that in a high street location, you can put in a planning application to put a billboard on the side of the house and get a very cheap form of advertising. If anyone walks up that to the second road and turns right down Regent Street and look up to the second, third house on the left hand side, number 5, you'll see one of our signs. Because what we like to do every time we rent a property out is screw a sign there to the wall with property just purchased, if you've got a house to sell, call us. Okay, with our telephone number. We put them there, why? Rather than on a stick in the garden, because that's been there for years. When we put them in on houses in nicer areas, the neighbours complain and the council asks us to take them down. In the 3 out of 10 areas, 4 out of 10 areas, nobody ever complains. Okay, and the tenants that live in them houses don't ever take them down because they can't be asked to get step ladders and take them down. It's the nature of the psychology of the beasts we're dealing with. They just tend to be lazy, and because they're lazy, that's why they're there. It's a different mentality. So the marketing that goes out to people in the 3 out of 10 areas is different to the marketing that goes out in the 7, 8 out of 10 areas. In the 7 or 8 out of 10 areas, we send out leaflets that say, I'm looking at buying a house in this area for my son. If you've got something that needs work, please call me. We need a house that needs lots of work because that's all he can afford. You can save yourself estate agency fees. It's that advert. Psychologically, that appeals to the more intellectual people. Okay, and then you go around and explain basically that you need, and that would work in Brighton, Ian. And you go around and explain that you're buying it for your brother and that you're lending him the money, and that when he's done it up, you're going to lend him the money to do it up and for the deposit, but he needs to refinance it, okay, and get an 85% loan to value mortgage, and therefore you need to recover when he refinances your deposit that you've lent him and the refurb cost back out of the refinance, which justifies the offer. Okay, that's the conversation we have. There's another leaflet that says, ask about our, and when you design a leaflet, from a marketing perspective, all marketing messages should be done with an attention grab. Okay, attention grab first, pain second, cure third, call to action fourth, or call to action third, cure fourth. I.e., here's the pain, if you're being repossessed, getting divorced, blah blah blah. So we can buy your house fast is the attention grab. The pain is if you're being repossessed, if you're getting split up, you need to sell fast, blah blah blah, all them things. Call us now, call to action, and ask about our 48 hours fast exchange process. Ask about our pay market price process, and ask about our pay over market price process. Do we mind paying over market price for a property? Not if they work to the terms and conditions we want, which is we don't want to pay for it for 10 years. The other leaflet is just a cash paid for property, just a straight, but that only goes into the subprime areas, the 3 and 4 and 5 out of 10s, and that works in them areas.
So Glenn, the 48-hour exchange, that's the BMV, as it were.
Yes.
The pay over, that's the EDC or option.
Yep.
And the pay market price.
The pay over market price.
Yeah, the one in the middle you said was pay market price.
Yeah, the one that pay over market price is the one where where I bought a property for 300, I sold it for 280, and I'm making £250,000 profit. Basically, what I'm doing is swapping 3.5 grand for over a period of time. I'm putting 3.5 grand into my pension fund and getting £250,000 out at the end. Talk about that tomorrow. Head mess day. Most of what I speak about will go. I just need you to know the great thing I like about tomorrow is it makes everybody realise just how valuable the mentoring program is and how much money you can make from it if you've got my head on your team. And it can be options and delayed completions and all that sort of stuff. It all depends. It's a marketing message, okay? It gets calls.
Glenn,
Yes.
do you have examples of ads on Dropbox or something?
Yeah. When you join the mentorship program, when you join the partnership program, there is a Dropbox account and a Facebook account for both. And there are lots of documentation relevant that you need. All your marketing materials are in there. Everything you need is in there for you to go out and get on with your business. As of well, you've already got a lot of you have got appointments for Monday already. Who's got appointments for Monday from the marketing so far? And that's Saturday marketing, where you'll get the most of your calls early next week. I love kicking you deep end into the property business. You will go out, you'll go and see properties, and you'll want to talk to me probably on Tuesday on the webinar about what you see on a Monday. And go, help, I've seen this property, what do I do? So I think we give everybody access to the webinar after this weekend. The people on the mentoring are getting 18 months of it, and the people that aren't are getting about a week of it. So you can see what you're missing. Okay, right. So let's talk about leafleting. There's two ways of doing leafleting. Who'd like to make a profit out of their leafleting? Who'd like to do marketing for their properties or for new properties and make money on it? Now, out of you, who's got time? Okay, because you need time to do that. Because what you do is you set up a leaflet company. Okay, and we deliver leaflets for Indian restaurants, for taxi firms, anybody who sends leaflets through my leaflet letterbox at home. We phone up and we say, look, I run a leafleting company purely because I need to market myself. Because I need to get my leaflets out, we make sure that it's a fully verified delivery. And all I'm trying to do is, rather than make a profit out of my leaflet company, I just want to get my leafleting done for free. So we charge about £26 per 1,000 for delivering leaflets for other people. We pay our leaflet deliverers about £55 a 1,000 for delivering leaflets. Okay, so the people doing it are on 50, 55, 60 quid a day to deliver 1,000 leaflets. I suggest you do it once to try. You probably, so you understand what goes through their heads, so you understand whether they're trying to get away with anything. We pay £17 a month for a tracker, which when anybody goes and takes leaflets out, if they don't turn their tracker on, we do not pay them their wages. Okay, the tracker clicks every 30 seconds. You can go to Google Maps and you can basically follow the dots to where they've been in the time they've been there. So you can actually see whether they've delivered their leaflets correctly. And if they haven't, we don't pay them. And when we say to somebody, look, we actually track our people, and this is what a page looks like. Anytime you want to have a look at when your leaflets went out, you can see how well we've done because you can look at the tracker. Okay. Leaflet deliverers notoriously are very unreliable. We're always getting leaflets found in dustbins, in hedges, all sorts of things. Okay, the best people, if you put an advert in the local shop on the little cards, I prefer to have people that have just left work, so early retired pensioners who want to do a bit of exercise. The best two deliverers we ever had were two of our Polish builders' wives who were out delivering leaflets, and they were mainly doing it because they wanted to lose weight. And they both started off at around 14, 15 stone and ended up at about 11 stone, so we knew they were doing it. Okay. And we got a good response from when they did. So put the advert in the local shop window. Make sure that they come to you or you meet them at a cafe somewhere. We actually create little maps that are different areas of Milton Keynes, and they are plastic wrapped. And we go, here's your leaflets and here's this. And we always give them about 50 leaflets too many than what they need for the number of houses they're delivering to. Because if they come back with somewhere between about 30 and 70 leaflets, we know they're doing it properly. If they come back with none, we start getting worried. Okay? And we know how long it takes, which is why you need to do one day. One of the most successful leaflet companies was in London, and they used to have, their people used to jog around. They used to employ people who just wanted to get fit, and they used to jog around, which was great for the leaflet company because they delivered their leaflets twice as quick. You can set up a leaflet company. You can charge, if you're delivering 5 leaflets through a door, you're getting an income of your leaflet, you're getting for free, you're getting an income of 4 lots of 26 quid, and you're paying 55 quid out. So you're actually making around 50 quid for every 1,000 leaflets you're delivering. So if you're delivering 10,000 leaflets a week, which you'd need 2 staff 5 days a week to do, you'll be making a profit of about 500 quid.
The areas have got to match though, haven't they?
The areas have got to match, so you'll never ever get 5 going out all the time, because Indian restaurants only tend to want to their locality delivered to. You can't put 2 competing Indian restaurants in the same delivery. So it's never a world of perfect. However, you should be able to end up with your leaflets going out for free. So anybody who's just given up work can set this up and have their marketing machine running free. Okay, so you can deliver as many leaflets out there as you can. You need to set up a cycle. Craig Shrigley, one of the people, very, very anal person, very good, shrewd business person, works in Manchester, split tests his advertising and marketing to death, found out that the ultimate delivery cycle for leaflets is every 8 weeks. That people respond most the 3rd or 4th time they get their leaflets, that you should stick to the same type of looking leaflet so people recognise it. Your newspaper advertising should match. So he works out an area based on delivering every 8 weeks. If you want to do 1 deal a year, and you tend to get 1 deal from 20,000 leaflets, you can deliver 20,000 leaflets divided by 52 and deliver that many a week. If you want to do 10 deals a year, you've got to do 200,000 leaflets. So how many leaflets do you need to do a week? You can turn your marketing machine up and down with a switch. Okay? The more leaflets you get, the more the deals you get. You'll get about 15 calls for every 20,000. You won't quite get 1 call for every 1,000 leaflets. You'll get about 3/4 of a call for every 1,000 leaflets. Not that I know what 3/4 of a call is. Okay. So, you can actually work out the area that you want to deliver to. It works best in subprime areas where the rental yields are the best. Okay, you can spot these areas by driving around, and as I said the other day, spot the settees in front of the garage doors, spot the cars with tarpaulins on bricks, spot the stone-clad houses, spot the houses that have still got Christmas decorations on from last year, and England flags.
Is there a nifty place that if you say, right, I want to target this area here, that you can target and it says that will give you an approximate number of households? I mean, how do you
yeah, I mean, you can ring up the local paper and pretend you want leaflets delivered to that area and ask them how many properties there are for your leafleting campaign. You can go to the council. My son actually got it all from the council by telling the council he wanted to do a thesis and needed to know the number of addresses in each area, and they gave it to him. So once the leaflets are running and up and running, you'll start getting calls. Now from a newspaper advertising point, oh hang on, leaflets. So alternatively, there's a company that you can use called Paul Clark Printing, who we can put you in contact if you need to know where they are. I think they're down in Chelmsford Way. They charge something like 130 quid for 20,000 leaflets printed and delivered to your door by courier. Okay. Other things you need is a company called All Day PA, although I think we've recently changed. Basically the telephone number gets redirected to them. We get our numbers through AQL because AQL record all their calls. So we can listen to any calls that have come into the call centre that we use. Okay? So for those of you that are working full-time and don't have any time, all you need to do is to pay for the leaflets to be delivered, and you can set up a lovely campaign that's permanently running and never stops. The leafleters print 20,000 leaflets. The delivery company we tend to use are door-to-door. That's the Royal Mail. They charge about £40 per 1,000 leaflets to deliver. The cost of each deal is about 1,100 quid of marketing should bring you a deal. So, door-to-door don't want 20,000 leaflets turning up for that month's marketing campaign. They want leaflets turning up on a Friday ready for next week. So Paul Clark Printing will, with your instructions, send the right amount to door-to-door, to their depot, on a weekly basis. It will cost you slightly more. Once you've worked out the rota of places you're delivering to, once you've worked that rota out, you can set up Paul Clark printing off a batch, sending 5,000, 6,000, whatever it is for the week, door-to-door delivering them. Any phone calls go to All Day PA, and you get a text or an email to say you've had a phone call. And the standard questions that we ask, which if you email Mel, she can give to you, you'll have a list of answers. It's totally seamless. All you need to do to all the wheels is to pay for the leaflets and pay All Day PA and pay the door-to-door collection. But you can set it up so it just runs as sweet as week in, week out, week in, week out. Permanent marketing process. Once it's running nice, you'll just get a constant lead source from it.
Is that happening right now?
For us, no, we don't do it anymore. Although a lot of our students do, because we get most of our deals now come from, because we're not adding to our portfolio. Our deals are all for buy, do, upsell, flips, and the people on the partnership program are all finding them. So they're all doing the marketing, and we just split the profit with them. So it's far easier for me to be doing deals with 40, 50 different people finding them than for me to find them now, because we can fund the process, the buying of and doing up of the properties. It's very easy for people on the partnership program to be earning half of 200 grand a year, because all they need to do is find 10 flip deals a year, and you get half and I get half. And some of the deals are a lot more profitable than that. So that's leaflets. For newspaper advertising, of which there's some leaflets here, examples on here. That was our most successful advert ever. Used to run on the back page of the paper. That's obviously when we could do sale and rent backs. But you come and have a look at these after. If I send them round, everyone will be talking and not concentrating. So I'd start off with an advert like that. We've put the yellow round it border. That's the first one of the first adverts I ever did. It's basically a cash paid for property advert. It goes into the property classifieds. Typically cost about 60 quid a week. Okay, when you ask, they will give you a quote for their rates card. That's the standard charge per column centimetre that they charge for that specific page. If when they've quoted the rate card, you actually say to them, what about if I advertise for 13 weeks? You'll get a discount. If you then offer to prepay on a week-to-week basis, you'll get a further discount. So you should get it down to about 60% of rate card. Once the advert's run for the 13 weeks, and you've had loads of great results for it, What happens when the newspaper rings and says, would you like to continue to run this advert? You don't go, yeah, it's working brilliant, yes please. You go, actually, do you know what? We've not had a lot of success with your advert. We're actually looking at going with the other paper. And they'll come in with a cheaper price of somewhere 50% of rate card or 40% of rate card. The gold comes when you get late space. Late space advertising, they will ring you and say, especially if you've done a one-page advert or a half-page advert that they can blow up, so they've got the artwork. They'll ring you and say, would you like to put a full-page advert in? It's available for £800. And you'll say, no, I would pay you. And we used to pay 400 quid for a full page. Okay, we'll pay £400 for that. And they'd say, we'll come back to you. And what they did is they had a list of people approved for late space adverts, and they'd ring the person who'll pay the most, and if they didn't want it, they'd go to the person who paid second most. So one day Nick got a phone call and he got this down to 50 quid, but he never got another call. Now, for every £1,000 of late space advertising you do, you'll get about 15 calls and one deal. Okay? You'll get about 15 calls and one deal. So for every £1,000 of late space advertising. We never could work out whether a half page at 250 or a full page at 400 work better, because they're both fairly sizable adverts, aren't they? We did know that when we were on the TV page we did particularly well. Okay. We do know that the bottom right hand side is far better than the middle left. And we do know that yellow background with black lettering is the best form of marketing, as long as it's not on a page full of other leaflet adverts the same. It's very hard to dictate whereabouts in the paper you go. So the late space advertising, basically they will keep ringing you, and we ended up with a price of 400 quid, and we knew if they phoned us we'd get it. You need to either go, if you're getting offered it too often, offer less. If you're not getting it enough, offer more. Okay? Until you find a happy medium where you're getting the amount of advertising for the amount of deals you want a year. So if you want to do 25 deals a year, you need to do 25 grand a year of advertising. Okay? If you're doing 25 grand a year of advertising, what's that, 500 quid a week? So you really ideally want to have a late space £500 a week advert every single week. Or you might cross marketing and spend half your budget on leaflets and half your budget on newspapers. What will happen when you do your marketing is the phone will ring. Okay? And when the phone rings, it's a bit nerve-wracking if you've not dealt with this before. Would you like to know what happened the first time ever my phone rang? Would you like to know?
Yeah.
Mr. Trinder. Good old Mr. Trinder. The phone rang. Do you really pay cash for property? So it depends on the price of the house. Can you come round and have a look at my house? Yeah, when would you like me to come round? Can you come round this afternoon? Yes, of course I can. And that's how I left it. And I went round there. But before I went round there, I did some research. My research said that the houses were worth 60 grand. They're in Granby Court. Looks a little bit like the Pentagon in America. It's a big building with 3 stories of flats. Got to Mr. Trinder's flat. Knocked on the door, there's all bars on the windows and a grille on the inside of his door. Gone in, he said, it's not very nice around here, I have to have bars on my windows. He said, but at least I can leave the windows open and the kids don't get in, and my cats can. He said, I had an estate agent round here a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, and do you know what? The idiot told me the house was worth about 60 grand. I told him what a load of rubbish. I told him it was only worth about 30, and he offered me 33 for the property. So he was buying it off me, but it's taken so long, I got fed up waiting. If you're happy to buy it off me for around that figure, then I'm happy to sell it to you. So I'm like, this is easy, I'm going to do this like time and time again. This is going to be great fun. He said, however, I thought, okay, you know that too good to be true thing. He's gone, the kitchen's really rubbish. He said it's really horrible. It's a minging kitchen. And I went, it's not the nicest kitchen, must admit. And he's gone, and the bathroom's minging as well, it's horrible. He's gone, do you know what? I think it's only worth 30 grand. Will you give me 30 grand for it? So I said, yeah, I'm fine, yeah, no problem. He said, however, so here we go. Can I rent it back off you? I'd never done sale and rent backs. I don't think sale and rent backs were a thing that had ever been done at the time. So I've gone, well, yeah, I'm sure we can do that. And now I knew the rent round there was around about 300, 350. And he turned round and he said, it's £400 a month, okay? I went, yeah, that would work. He's got, and can I pay you a year up front? I'm like, yeah, of course you can. Now, I'm definitely thinking this is just too good. But he did. I bought the house off him for 30 grand. I refinanced it for 33, and he gave us a year's rent up front, 4,800 quid. And, you know, great. 11 months later, he phoned up and he said, is it all right if I carry on renting the property? One of the things he did say, he said, I've been made, I've come to retirement age, but my company keep re-employing me, and they can keep re-employing me through my contract every 3 months. He said, so if I get made redundant at the end of 3 months, and I decide to move, will that be all right? You can keep the year's rent. Yeah, okay. He said it might be at 3 months, it might be at 6, I don't know. I said, okay. 11 months later, he phoned up and said, can he renew? Can he carry on renting? I said, yeah, no problem. And then about 6 months later, he phoned up and said, look, I've actually been made redundant now, or I've now left work. I need to claim housing benefit. Is that all right? He said, but I understand the housing benefit around here is about 480, whatever it was at the time. So I can give that to you. Is that all right? We want more customers like him. I never ever did another deal like that. So we did the deal. He lived there, and he only moved out about a year ago because he went into a sheltered accommodation. He'd been there probably 8 years, 9 years. And then we kind of got to thinking, because he was claiming housing benefit for the property, okay? And he'd had his 30 grand that I gave him for the property. He had a 5 grand mortgage, so he had 25 grand left. He'd paid 5 grand for his year's rent, so he had 20 grand. He didn't have anyone to leave his money to, so whatever he's done with his 20 grand, I hope he had a good time spending it, okay? But if you think about it, if he hadn't sold it to us, when he left work, he'd have still had to pay his mortgage. Instead, housing benefit paid his rent, and he'd had the 20 grand. And that's what got us into doing sale and rent backs. That's what got us into marketing for sell us your house and we'll rent it back to you. That, I believe, was the start of the sale and rent back industry in this country. And the start of the same day refinance stuff. I know Inside Track used to do it, but other than them, we were the first people to actually discover that Mortgage Express would allow you to do same day refinance. So we kind of pioneering the path of property investment, I know you normally like to say something about that.
What Glenn and the team do is continually push the boundaries, and they will create, or he will create, new strategies that work in today's market that other people will be teaching in 2 years' time. This is where it all happens. They do really genuinely begin here, because the team that Glenn's got behind him, the solicitors that he knows, he has an idea. I don't know where they come from. I don't think he does some of the time.
They just appear overnight.
And somehow the magic happens, and
we find a new way of making money.
well, yes, it's over it, under it, round it, through it. He will find that way. And I genuinely do believe that this is where they're born, in the room. So if you are looking at getting any further education on your property journey, this is the place to be. And I have said, I think I've said it on camera already, that I would work here for nothing, but he does insist on paying me. So if we have any vacancies and anybody is interested, come and see me.
Thank you. So, the phone rings. Now, I had somebody ring me up a long time ago when we first started doing this, about 2006, 2005, 2006. And he's gone, Glenn, my phone keeps ringing. And I go, well, haven't you answered it? He's gone, no, it might be someone ringing about a house. I go, well, if you put the advert in, you're going to get people ringing. He's gone, yeah, but you don't understand. I'm trying to paint a house and they keep ringing and I don't want to answer it because it's going to mess up my routine of getting it painted on time. It's kind of the fear of the unknown stuff, isn't it? Anyway, I rung them back. He'd put his advert in the newspaper prior to coming on the course. He came on our one-day course on the Saturday. He got a phone call on the Tuesday and closed the deal on a Wednesday. And there was a 40 grand profit in it. If anyone beats that, please let me know, because so far that's the record. Okay, of from education to actually doing their first deal. The phone rings. You pick it up. What do you say? Apart from, hello. The first thing I ask is, have you got a price in mind? I normally ringing up about your advert. We want to talk about the price. Have you got a price in mind? 99% of the time they have got a price in mind, and it is more than it should be, or more than what I want to pay for it. 1% of the time, it's actually less than or a price I would be prepared to pay, or even less than a price I'd be prepared to pay. So on one particular occasion the phone rang and they said, would you like to buy our property? I said, where is it? They told me. What price? They told me. I think it was about 120 grand they wanted, which worked just right because I knew the houses around there I thought were worth about 160. But I decided to do my due diligence and I couldn't find anything. You know when you think something's not quite right, it probably is. You better look into it more. And I hadn't been doing property that long at the time. So I phoned an estate agent friend of mine. He said, look, I'll do a drive-by, which he did, and then he phoned out and he said probably about 160, Glenn. Then I phoned another estate agent friend of mine and said, what do you think these would be worth? And he actually said, well, there's loads of them on Rightmove. I said, what do you mean there's loads of them on Rightmove? I couldn't find them. He said, yeah, 175, 180. I'd only searched up to 160. So there I am with a property that could be worth 180 and they've told me they want 120 for it. So it's like, has anyone ever put 100 quid on the Grand National on 100 to 1 horse? And there's 3 fences left and your horse is winning. Okay? It's kind of a bit like that. You do get used to it. So, I've gone round to have a look at this property knowing exactly that. The gentleman They said to me, do you want to come and have a look around the house? It's before I'd established my sit down, build rapport, have a cup of tea, then go around and have a look round. It's before I understood about that, before we'd worked it in. So, walked around the house, and I walked around. Now, asked me if I'd like to buy that for a tenner. Yes, please, thanks. Okay. How do you feel? Feel cheated? Didn't get enough, could have got more. Yeah, why? Too easy. Okay, let's do that again then. Would you like to buy it for a tenner?
Yeah, we'd like to buy it for a tenner.
Can't beat that intake of breath. Second hand.
Yeah, we're in good nick.
I'd give you £4.50 for it.
We will, mate. 7.
£4.50 is my final offer. He's just being really stubborn, isn't he?
The man who speaks first.
Yeah. So he knows that he knows that rule. Okay. Prime example. Okay. My wife, bless her cotton socks, and I were negotiating on a van for her ironing company, and we'd phoned somebody up. The car was in the market for £7,400, and the person who I knew from the car trade turned up. He's gone, Glenn, I know you always like a good deal. Best price I can do for this is £7,000. Okay. Do you want to take? And I took it out for a test drive. Couldn't find anything wrong with it. I came back and I said to him, I can give you 6.6 for the car. That's my best offer. Out of principle, I can't pay you what you're asking for it. And he's gone, no, it needs to be £7,000. I said 66 is my best offer. And he shut up because he knew and he'd been trained. And I shut up because we knew whoever makes the first is the one who... And my wife said, oh, go on, £7,000's all right. You can't jump at an offer either, okay? So it's very much in a negotiation about... So I said to the gentleman, I said, do you know what, 120? You know I say that I pay your legal fees in the advert? He said, yeah. I said, well, it's a little bit on the tight side. I said, but if I don't have to pay your legal fees, I'll pay you 120. And he's gone, come on, this house is worth at least 170, 180. He said, I know what it's worth. He said, my firm wants me to move there quick. They've told me that they will pay the shortfall when I sell the house cheap. So I really don't mind up to a maximum, and that's the maximum. So do you want it for 120 or not? I'm like, yeah, okay. So it's very important to ask, did you have a price in mind? Most of the time the price, if they do have it in mind, will be dearer than what you want to pay. Now we're going to start the nibbling. Okay, yes, I have got a price in mind. The price is 140. Okay, well, assuming that I agree with you that 140 is its market price, and assuming the property doesn't want anything to do into it, I would be paying 85% of 140. 85% of 140 is 119. Would that be acceptable to you? It's very much like the 3.5 grand on the car deal. Yeah, that turn round. I want to find out if they're motivated. And if they say yes, I'll make an appointment to go round. And if they say no, I'll still make an appointment to go round, but I'll be going round with a different hat on. I'll be going round to do some sort of lease option deal or something like that. And then I'd say to them, if they say no, it's got to be more than that, I'd say, okay, I can pay more than that if you're happy to work with my terms and conditions. Can I come and discuss that with you? If he says yes, 119 is okay for me, then I'll go round. Okay? Now, what the analogy is 140 is over there is the fish. We've hooked the fish, and now we've got to reel it into the landing net. We need to know, by doing our due diligence, what we are prepared to pay for it. The only variable is going to be the amount of work when we get there. So you're going to have to think on your feet a little bit about that. We need to wind it into the net, and my target price is 100, and when I get the price to 100, I've caught the fish. Okay? So we run a process. Has anybody ever done any double glazing sales? Has anybody had a double glazing salesman round? Hey? Do they go and look quickly around, give you a plan and a price and say, see you later? Now, I don't like the analogy of a double glazing salesman. Okay? However, the process they use, and I don't mean sit there for 4 days until they agree to sell it to you for the price that you want. Okay? The process is very much one that they've learnt over the years. You sit down and they talk to you for an hour, half an hour about your favourite subject. It's called rapport building. Tomorrow we're going to do an advanced negotiation where I'm going to demonstrate rapport building to you, because you're going to be doing it in pairs. Okay? So we don't want to be going around having a look at the house. The first thing anyone does when you go around to see them is they'll come in, do you want to have a look round? Now, I went to Romford when I was buying stuff everywhere. It come from an advert in Milton Keynes, and he'd phoned his brother, and his brother had rung me from Romford, had gone down to see him. He said to me, now, it's a typical Essex boy. Now, I can talk Essex with the best of them, because that's where I was brung up. Typical Essex boy, lorry driver, tattoos, braces, string vest, bald head, big belly. And I knocked on the door. He said, do you want to come around and have a look round? I said, well, can we sit down and have a cup of tea? He said, what do you think this is, a kin cafe? And I went, actually, I wasn't intending to pay for my tea, so no. And he's gone, you're a cheeky fuck. Come on, let's go and sit down, I'll put the kettle on. Okay, so we've sat down, and you look around the room for clues. Literally looking around the room, looking for pictures of their family, and we're going to spend the tea. So if you don't drink tea or coffee and you're into herbal tea bags, take one with you, okay? Because that is the egg timer. That cup of tea is the time that you do your rapport building, okay? So you can measure it. So drink it slowly and find out what their favourite subjects are. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. You have how many of these? And how many of these? Use them in that proportion. I once watched a TV programme about a blind date, and the couple had been on a blind date, and the TV people interviewed both the couple afterwards, and they said to her, how was your date? And she said, it was amazing. I had a lovely time. He's such a nice man. He's so interesting. I'd really love to go out with him again. They interviewed him. He went, couldn't get a word in edgeways. Well, actually, she said that you were very interesting. He said, how the hell does she know that? I never spoke. She said, you were very nice. He said, how does she know that? I never spoke. Okay? She loved him because he listened. He listened because he didn't have a choice. Okay? If you've got golf stories and you're talking to someone who likes golf, resist the temptation to dominate the conversation and tell them about all the good golf stories you know. Listen to their golf stories. Ian knows when we went on that viewing, we listened to him probably for 2 hours. We listened to his life story, the story of the house being built, why it was there. his job, everything. Okay? And we came that close to making £2 million. And on many, many other deals, we've done the deals because they like you. People buy people that they like. They will not sell. I class buying a house cheap exactly the same as somebody who sells something to you. It's a sales process, except because we're buying it cheap, I call it an anti-sale. The process of persuading somebody to sell something to you cheap is exactly the same process as trying to sell someone something in reverse. Okay? Now, it's very important to act as if it's going to happen. Okay? Assumptive closing is very, very important. If you're talking to someone and you go, oh, Brendan, my offer's going to be very low, is that going to be all right? If I come across like that, so let me talk to you about the two best salespeople I ever come across in the car industry. When I was buying and selling cars, I was going around to lots of people's garages and the big chains garages. There was one fella called Alan Kingham who worked for the Vauxhall garage, and every single month, month in, month out, there were 6 salespeople in the team, and he sold more than the other 5 people put together every month. And I'd love sitting in the place waiting for him to finish, listening and watching what he was doing. And somebody would come in and say to him, we're looking for a car. And he'd say, okay, what are you looking for in particular? What do you need it to do? I need a car that's probably an estate car. And he'd ask what litre they want, what economy they're looking for, what size is estate car. And he'd establish exactly what they need. Do you have a colour preference? Yeah, I'd like blue. Okay, so we actually have a blue one of these in stock. Let's take it out for a test drive. And what price can you afford each month? Okay, so they tell him how much they can afford. He'd go out for a test drive, they'd come back, he said, how was that? They'd be great. There would never ever be any doubt in his mind that they weren't buying that property, that car. He would not ask them, well, would you like to buy this or not? He would actually go, okay, well, I've been out to see the sales manager now. We can do it to the price you need. If you sign here, you can collect the car in 3 days. You know, subject to getting finance approved. And they'd be going. If they turn around and said, well, actually, we're going up, we want to go and have a look at another car up the road, he'd turn around to them and say, why? Is it because it's a better price? Because if price is that issue, let's look at the price. He would not let them walk, but it's assumptive closing. Never is there any doubt in his mind that they're not going to buy that car. Never does he enter in the conversation any doubt that they're not going to buy the car. He just assumes they are, acts as they are, and they kind of get pulled with it. Their heart's probably beating a quick and they know they're being dragged through the fence, but most people go along with it. Then there was the Grandmaster. Now you'd be in a nightclub and Dave would be asking you what car was your dream car. And at the time there was a lot of the XR2Is, XR3Is around. And Richard at the time may well have wanted an XR3i. And he'd be going, because there'd always be the girls around the nightclub, because he'd be in the VIP room, and he'd be going, so Richard, what can you afford each month for this car? Ego. Okay? Ego. And everyone wanted to kind of match him and be seen to be the big I am, because it's kind of how it works, especially after people had a couple of beers. So how much can you afford? £500 a month, or what, £300 a month, or whatever it is. Okay, no problem. Your favourite colour's red for the car. He'd establish that, write it all in his book. The next time a car trader drove by with a car like that, he'd say, look, leave it with me, I think I've got a customer for it. The car trader would drive off. He'd ring Richard up. Richard, what are you doing in your lunch hour? How do you fancy going out for a test drive in a red XR3i I've just got in stock? Do you want to pop down? And everyone wanted to go out for a ride in the car that they wanted. Yeah, their dream car. It's just how it is, isn't it? We all love to go out in a dream car and have a go. So if somebody actually rung you and said, do you want to go out for a test drive? Say you turned up at the showroom. Okay, Richard, for insurance purposes, I just need you to sign here and need to ask you a few questions. Date of birth, full name, blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much. Okay, look, here's the keys. Go out for now, enjoy yourself. He never go out with you because he kind of knows you. Now you walk back in and give me the keys. Do you know what? You remember you said you could afford 300 quid a month? Well, I've got it for you for 300 quid a month. In fact, it's 280. If you sign here, you can take the car or we can get it ready for you. And he just used to do that time and time again. And I actually shared the showroom with him and actually rented part of the garage off of him. So it was kind of, I learned a hell of a lot from what he did. Very, very good salesperson. Anyway, so you do your rapport building. At the end of the rapport building, you actually turn around and maybe push the cup a little bit away just to say that you're ready to start talking. And you say, look, I'm here to make a profit. And I know that you need to achieve a certain amount for this property, and there's probably things that you need to achieve. So if I can work out a deal where you get what you want and I get what I want, is that okay? And I get permission to make a profit, which relaxes them because they know you're here to make a profit, but because you've actually said I'm here to make a profit, they go, okay. Okay? Okay, so Ray, as I said, I'm here to make a profit, but let's have a look at your situation. There's lots of different ways of doing stuff, and what I'd like to do is take some information down that will enable me to come up with the best solution for you. Is that okay? Now, if I start asking him financial questions and he won't answer me, it's probably because you've said, look, I'm going to ask you a couple of personal questions about your finances and stuff, and is it all right if you answer them, please? Because they'll say no. You've just got to be assertive and act as if there's no way this deal's not going to happen. Okay? So I need to ask you a few questions in order to come up with the best solution for you. Can I just ask what the mortgage is outstanding on the property? So we'll take the outstanding mortgage. Okay? We'll look at whether there's a second charge or a third charge on the property. Okay? We look at how much a month each one of them payments are. We look at if there's any early repayment settlements. We look to see if it's on interest or interest and repayment. And then we look at all the credit card debts and see if there's any other monthly payments. I've been offered a property where they wanted a certain price for it, and the reason they wanted a certain price is because they had 30 grand of credit cards they needed to sell. I managed to negotiate them credit cards down to 30p in the pound and got their credit card bill down from 30 to 10. And I actually said to them before I did it, if I can negotiate your credit cards down to 10, are you prepared? Are you happy to sell the house to me for 20 grand less if I get 20 grand knocked off your credit cards? Because the net result will be the same. And they went, fine. So again, that's a process I can teach you if you come across it. How to negotiate credit cards down to 20 or 30p in the pound. You can only do it if they're already in arrears. We don't encourage them to go in arrears to do it. Okay. So, okay, so I can see where you're at. Now, as I said on the phone, we would offer 85% of what we deem to be the market price of the property. Now, so you've got it on the market for 140 with an agent. What do you think you'd actually accept as an offer on the property if the agents came up with something? Would it be about 130?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to go right, yeah.
Yeah, so, and do you know what? That's actually what I think the market price of the property is. It's about 130. And as I said, we will pay 85% of 130. 85% of 130 is 110. So we would look at me paying 110 for the property, less anything that needs doing to it. How does that sound?
Fair enough.
Now, when I say how would that sound, one of the things we'll be teaching you tomorrow is about AVK, audio-visual kinesthetic. Everybody is either audio-visual or kinesthetic dominated, probably 80%, 20%. Okay? If you communicate with someone in audio language, if they're audio, or visual language if they're visual, or kinesthetic language if you're kinesthetic, they will feel much more comfortable with you on a subconscious level. Okay? Scary, this stuff, isn't it? Okay? So, if you were visual, okay, and I'd ask you some questions during the rapport building stage, saying, oh, that's a nice pair of shoes you got there. Tell me, what made you decide to buy them?
Well, this goes nice with my trousers, actually.
So that's kind of a visual inclination. It goes nice with his trousers. Not a comfort thing, okay? And it's quite a nice car you got out in the drive. What made you buy that car?
Well, the idea that the back seat can fold on nicely and I can move things around, so I can have more space in the car for move things around.
Nice. And what other decision did you make when you bought the car? What made you decide to buy it?
Well, because it can be a practical use for my situation, my family situation.
Okay, so it's practical. It's not any. He's not giving any clues away as to whether it's visual. He's not saying I love the sound of the engine, or I love the look of the car, or I love the feel of the leather. And I'd explore until I found out exactly what he is. So if he was audio, I would be saying, how does that sound to you? Also, while we're doing the conversation about the property, so at the moment you're in arrears, how does that make you feel that you're potentially being repossessed?
Well, that would be devastating for me and my family, really.
So I'd write down them words. It's devastating for me and my family. Okay, whatever words he's using, I'll write them down. So, so how does that sound to you? Okay, as long as we can act quite quickly. Okay. Okay, well, let's go around and have a look around at the house. If it's all right with you, I haven't got my glasses with me. If I give you a piece of paper, can you please jot some notes as we go round? I'm getting him to buy into the cost of the refurb. Okay? I want him to buy into it. So he won't write something down he doesn't agree with. So how much is it going to cost me to replace this kitchen?
Remember 3.5, 4.
Okay, so let's write that down now. If you turn around and said, the kitchen's only 2 years old, one particular occasion somebody did that to me. I said, look, while you and I both love green kitchens, it isn't the most popular of colours, and I might struggle to sell the house, so I will need to change the colours. Okay. So, and the bathroom, and this, and we go around the house and he writes it all down. Okay, so how much does that come to? It comes to £12,000. Okay. Okay, so look, here's the thing. We can pay 85% of market price, which, as we said, 85% of 130 is 110. Less £12,000 for the refurb comes to 98. I would be prepared to pay 100. So if I paid you 100, okay, that would avoid the devastation you're feeling about having your house repossessed. Repeat the words in the close. Okay, repeat the words. How does that sound to you? Write audio-visual kinesthetic language. Okay, it's very important. There's a hell of a lot to think about. You know, it's bad enough going in and having a look at a house when you're nervous and you've never done it before. But for all this stuff, you will get better and better at it, and your close rate will go up. Okay? And all the time I'm watching their body language, their language patterns. All the time I'm talking to them and, you know, building that rapport. As I said, we spend 2-3 hours with people, finding all out about them, finding out what they're trying to achieve, knowing where they're going to retire to. So, £100,000. Now, it might not be the price he had in mind for his house, but I would also find out that that would give him everything he needs. So I'd say that would avoid the devastation of having the house repossessed and give you everything that you say you've needed in order for you to be able to go on a holiday have your rental deposit for your next property, etc., etc., etc. How does that sound to you? Okay? Okay. And then I'd introduce him to our solicitors and to the process. And it's as simple as that. That's the nibbling process. That's bought me house after house after house. So we bought 192 houses like this, pretty much. Majority of them were, I'd say 75% of them were through leaflets and marketing direct from vendors. We've bought over 12 properties for under 50% the market price. One particular lady, I said to her, if your rent is this, I can give you 100 for your property. If your rent is this, I can give you 80. At this low rent, which is 550, I think, I can give you 60. Assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. I didn't assume anything. I was shocked when she came back and said, yes, 60 is great, because I want to go travel the world and that will give me what I need. And when I come back, I don't want to have any money left because I want to have the housing benefit paid for it. I offered 80 grand for the property if she was prepared to pay 650 for the rent, or whatever it was, 700. And I said, but I can do the rent for 550 if I buy the house for 60, because that way I can have a smaller mortgage and I can afford to pay the mortgage out of the rent.
On the negotiating to buy the house there, would you save things like telling them that they're going to save estate agents fees and things like that in case they try to bargain the price up? I noticed you didn't use anything like that. Would you save?
I don't use the estate agent thing other than in marketing. Okay. Sometimes every negotiation is unique and you feel your way through it. You just feel your way through it, and you know, they throw curveballs at you that you're not expecting. You can't, that's one part of your armoury. Yeah, you know, you'll be saving at least 5 grand of estate agency fees. Is perhaps a line that you could use sometimes.
When you were saying it, I was thinking, he's got the price that he thought, say 140, then you let him know that he's at 130, and then you're going to offer him 85% of that, then you're going to knock off. But I would be, from conversations I've had with people, I would want to sort of bring something back to sort of counteract.
You can if they query it. Yeah, or if they don't query it, you can still add that. It's a good question. It is very much a touch-feel thing. Every negotiation is different. Everybody has their needs, and it's about finding out, when you get the money for the property, what you're going to do with it. What do you need? What do you need to see happen? Negotiation. Mel, can we dig out that thing that's in one of my presentations, that, not for today but for tomorrow morning? Negotiation is where you get a price that, you know which one I mean, because it's very important to understand that, and we'll put that up on here for tomorrow morning. Okay? And that's the end of day 3.